Hey folks, Spec Ops Monkey here. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about satellite phones. If you've ever been in a situation where comms are down, you realize very quickly how critical it can be to reach out and touch someone in the event of an emergency. Whether you're popping smoke for an exfil, in a remote location where there is no cell coverage, in a natural disaster, or just off the grid, having a satellite phone in your quiver can be a real game changer. And one of the beauties of the sat phone is that it can also be used without giving up your precise location, unlike a cell phone. All you need is an open sky, and the satellites will do the rest. Now, for my sat phone needs, I use the satellite phone store, as they have several options as well as lots of different plans available to fit your needs. Plus, they have a ton of accessories like Faraday pouches, hard cases, etc. They also have an exclusive offer for the Monkey Nation. Just go to sat123.com/monkeywerx via the link in the description box below, or call 619-399-3800 and tell them Monkey sent you. That is good coffee. All right, welcome folks. Spec Ops Monkey here. This is going to be our sit rep for Friday. It is March 4th, 2022, and times they are flying. Okay, so let's kick this off and get over here to the board real fast. Just so you can see, we're going to kick it in Skyglass to begin with. Pretty busy, active day over the United States today in terms of aircraft up. We just kind of hover above it all. You can see these cells down here, as well as right up here through the middle of Texas into Oklahoma. That's going to be a lot of trainer activity. This stuff in the Panhandle is a lot of trainer stuff. And then we do get a little congestion up here near Pax River and that general area. But let's go ahead and we'll basically just deconstruct here our board and see what we've got in terms of the big elements. Okay, and so typically we're looking at the heavy lifts. So I jump over here to C-130s, C-17s, and then another C-130 up here. Now these, let me just highlight the route so we can kind of see where they're headed, if this will cooperate. All right, so it looks to me like most of the activity right now is coming out of the East Coast headed west for the most part. And then we got a couple that are actually headed back that general direction. So now Fridays are kind of a normal heavy flow day for the C-17s, for supply chain stuff, right? We typically do see kind of an increase or an uptick relative to the C-17s, C-130s, etc. So there is that one. And then let's get over here real fast. I'm going to take a quick look at the air refuelers. And we've got 37 of them up. I'll go ahead and we'll select the routes on those as well. And 6-2, got 9 of those up. All right, and that kind of covers us from an air refueler perspective. And let's let that kind of marinate for a second as we get the lines kind of dialed in. You can see their locations. A lot of stuff coming out of central U.S., a lot of stuff up here in the northeast region headed, which is interesting. These seem to be headed out of the country, so at least headed northwest bound. So more than likely those are going to be headed over the drink. Now that'll kind of help us segue into the conversation about what's going on over in Asia. Don't lose sight of that. I know everything right now is Ukraine, 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 but I will tell you that we have been pumping assets into the Asia region for over 30 days now. So they are definitely preparing for something over there. And I wouldn't be surprised if within the next couple weeks we start to see something make the headlines in terms of things going on. But you can see pretty active. That's a lot of air refuelers. You've got 2 birds headed southbound, 1 running routes right out here over Vegas. More than likely that is going to be supporting red flag missions down in that general area. We usually get a lot of stuff going on around this time of year. And then of course we've got, you can see the routes running up here over the northeast. That's going to be over Flashbang's area, right? So we always have fighters up around that guy. And so everything else, and this has got to be the coolest app on the planet. It's like when I was on travel last week, or should I say out of the office, or out of pocket, this was probably the biggest app that I missed the most, because just the ability to give you different looks and actually pull it all together in a big picture. it's just an amazing app. And so I almost pulled the trigger and got it for my Mac, for my iPad, but I was already heading back before the time was up. So, but going forward, I definitely am going to have that on all of my devices, because this thing is, like I said, you just can't get that look anywhere else. So, all right, now let's talk a little bit about this as we get over. I just want to show you what's going on relative to, we'll first look at the U.S. watch list. Okay, so as you know, I've got kind of a bucket list that I hit pretty regularly in terms of aircraft. Now, what you're going to notice are the high balloons, okay, on my watch list. Those are still up. Heavy concentration over the center of the U.S. and then off to the East Coast. The one you see at the very top right is actually going to be coming into your picture right now. That's actually over Panama City, Florida. But then the ones down below are aircraft. You got about 6 P-8s that are up this morning. These other NAs that are on ground over DC, those are going to be Google balloons or Loon balloons or Mill Intel, whatever you want to call it. But they're shown on ground. I don't know if that's right. And then, of course, from that, we also have that R-135 that was taken off. That was actually the C variant, which is going to be the nuke sniffer. So, and we'll get a closer look at that one here in just a second, okay? All right, let me back out of the air refuelers. Let's get over here to the R-135s just so we can see where they are. We got 3 of them out over the U.S. right now. Let me clear the track there, okay? And then let's turn on the tracks for these. And you can see they all seem to be taking off out of Nebraska, down in Omaha, and one headed north, one headed west, and one headed east. So now the Top Cat or the Cobra, these are all different type of variants and missions. So one of them's looking at battlefield assessment, one of them's taking air samples for nuclear stuff. But I do find it interesting. Now, I did get some information from somebody the other day that was talking about these locations that they're going to. I haven't had a chance to vet it yet, but I thought it was very interesting because it talked a lot about some of the location and sites that our military or government operates that are really not super well known. And so, but I'm going to have to get back into that and peel the onion. But I'll share that with you guys as soon as I've been able to vet it. But it was very interesting to say the least. But anyway, yeah, you can see 3 R-135s here in the United States, all rolling out of Omaha, Nebraska. And then we've got a U-2 up as well. That's probably out here over Beale, if I had to guess, or maybe not. It is not showing. It's always interesting when you hit one of these and it doesn't appear. I have that happen more than you can realize. So, all right, let me do this. I'm going to back out just a little bit, and I see what it's saying now. It's out over Saudi, if that's correct. Okay. All right, let me back out of that. Let's get into look at the flat look of ADS-B and just kind of show you what's going on. Now, we do have some drones up here, and actually, let me back up. I want to show you the drone situation. Here, this is ADS-B exchange from a drone perspective, just showing you the things that are up right now. Now, remember, we looked at this one yesterday. This is actually the Swedish Air Force. They've got one that is, I don't know if it's an AWACS kind of frame, but it's got that sail on it. But I think it can do like the AWACS as well and grab ground data. Then we've got one out over the Baltic, and then over the Baltic, should I say? And then we've got this one, which is our Q4 coming out of down around Cyprus, I think. But those 3 are up in this general area pretty regularly right now. You can see this one's actually looks like he's coming back to land, but these are all these are spy birds. I mean, they're up looking. They've got a reason, something's concerning them up here for sure. I don't know what it is. Maybe the Russians may have some naval fleet assets in here. They're definitely worried about it. And then this one here, as you can see, running routes along that way. Now remember, this Q4's got a range that is pretty extensive. If we get over here and look at our spycraft, just as a refresher, that Q4's got a 1,500-mile radius of what it can look at in the sky at any given time, either direction, really. And the other thing that's really interesting about that is that it has a hang time of about 18 hours. And it can cover in that 18 hours 40,000 square miles in terms of data collection and recon. So just a data point for you, but just know when this thing is up, it's not just looking at some little small area over here. This bad dude is all the way up looking into Belarus, probably all the way over on the border along Russia. So yeah, pretty wild. Now that's going to be our B-52. We've had 2 of these dudes up here rolling around in this general area, just a show of force. That's all it is. I seriously doubt we're going to be doing bomb runs at anything at this point, at least not on this side. You would think, I don't know, we could get engaged, that's for sure. Depending on what happens with the airspace over this region, and then if things continue to kind of unravel. So now let me show you the sky glass. I know I bounced back and forth on this. I do want to show you from a sky glass perspective what was going on this morning with the heavies. This was about 2 hours ago, but this is kind of a roll-up of the last about 8 or 10 hours of flights. And so you can see the concentration. We're starting to put some assets, it looks like, down in Cyprus, which is just south of the Black Sea there on your map, in that other water region below the Black Sea. And then it looks like a lot of our hub stuff is coming out of Germany and then out of the UK. So those are the heavies. So that's going to be moving people and assets. Anything could be, launchers, could be all kinds of different stuff. So, all right, there's that one. And then this is my watch list from the EU perspective. Just want to show you what we had up earlier this morning as well. We had some Sentry activity, which is to be expected. We had the 2 B-52s that were right there, kind of hovering in that Black Sea area, just kind of bringing it right up to the edge there. Then our Q4 that was headed northbound. So it's been an interesting, nothing really that's popping out that says, whoa, we got some different type of activity going on. This is kind of what has been consistent throughout since this whole thing kicked off and actually leading up to it. It looks like we just got some replen stuff going on at the moment. Now this NATO 01, we watch these guys pretty regularly. When you see them do this circle right here, that is data grab. They're playing man in the middle. That's when that AWACS aircraft quits doing air traffic control for the region and starts focusing down on the ground. It's grabbing cell tower data, etc. So again, this was something that I learned in the last 3 months or so from a former pilot that flew AWACS. That kind of just gave me a little intel on it when they started doing that. So very interesting. So when they do that perfect circle, that's what they're doing. It's man in the middle, and they're probably grabbing stuff out in here. There's no telling. I don't know what the range is for that particular one. Usually it's line of sight when it comes to Dirtbox and Stingray stuff, but those, they're usually at around 15,000 feet, and it's a smaller aircraft. But this AWACS has got quite the electronic suite on it. So there ain't no telling what the range is on that bad dude. Okay. All right, now let's back away. Let me make sure I covered everything. Talking points on that. Yeah, I think I did get it. Okay, let's back out of this. We're going to go into Flashbang's schedule for today. Just kind of show you real fast what this dude's got going on. Looks like he's meeting with somebody from the Republic of Finland, and then he heads out to Delaware. Doesn't seem to be too concerned about anything else, although they may just be trying to keep this guy busy. Probably got tired of playing Candy Crush, and so now he's sitting in on a couple things. So current time over in the Ukraine is 7:15 p.m. in the evening, so it's going into night, starting to get wrapped up for the day on a Friday afternoon. Let's see here. Let's go over here to our active TFRs, just so you guys can see the latest and greatest. Now these orange boxes, these are storms or storm warnings or something along those lines. I guess there's wind or something at 41 mile an hour movement. I don't know. Not too familiar with the weather boxes there, but just want to point them out so you don't think there's something that they aren't. Okay. Now this right here, this is going to be Flashbang headed to his senior living center up there in Delaware. The red circle here, again, as always, is going to be the brown zone. And that covers the village and all of the village people. And then we get down here. Looks like our Space One operations has gone away. Looking around, this is air show, normal border stuff. I don't see anything that catches my eye in terms of TFRs that we need to be concerned with. So, okay, back this up. Get over to our next one. Now, the area we've been watching pretty closely is the Black Sea. This is going to actually just look at the shipping activity. So mainly cargo and tankers. The green are cargo, the red are tankers. You can see we've got quite the backup of ships trying to get out of the region. This area right here, this little strait as they pass through, a lot of congestion in here, but most of them are moving. And the area that is just kind of glares right now, if you may notice, there is nothing in this big area right here. So that tells me there are probably a lot of Russian ships or naval ships in this region right now. And so people are staying pretty far clear of it, okay? And this area here too, wide open, nothing really in it, okay? So these are parked vessels, cargo, okay? All right. So it looks like this port is the only one really that in this area that's getting any kind of oil or cargo, all right? For the most part, these have been sitting kind of stagnant, so I don't know if the port's backed up or what the deal is there, but again, this is kind of the big void that we're looking at to kind of give us an indicator of what's going on. But we knew Black Sea is going to be no man's land, right? We kind of knew that going into this, that because Turkey is down here, they're part of the NATO alliance, but they are also buddy-buddy with Russia. So that is going to be really interesting to see how that gets enforced, okay? All right, let's hop over here to our forward observer. I just want to see what's going on with our early warning reports. If you guys don't get this stuff, this is, it's just forwardobserver.com, a really good source for just intel. It's just been something that I stumbled upon. Somebody passed it on to me. Like I said, I don't know these guys other than they seem to be military background just based on their intel pushes. So, but let's see here. Now it looks like Biden is now starting to consider sanctioning India for this Russian arms deal, looking at space war warnings. But this is the main thing down here. NATO sitrep looks like Russia has a southern advance, which would be kind of consistent with that naval look right here. So if they're coming in from the south, it's from Crimea in here. So that means they're probably pushing in. They probably got a pretty large naval presence here where they're loading stuff in, because if they're coming from the south, most of the attacks so far from the Ukraine perspective, and we'll get over here to the Google Maps here in a second, have been from the Russian side pushing westward, okay? All right, and then let's see, we're starting to see this kind of bubble in with with Taiwan and Russia and China and the banks and everything else. We'll start to see more of those three names here probably in the coming weeks, just based on the air traffic that we're watching, okay? All right, now this is where the rubber meets the road. I think this is what is, at the end of the day, what they're trying to do. And that is, I don't know if you are familiar with the Spetsnaz. I probably just butchered that name, but these guys are kind of like our Navy SEALs. They're really kind of crazy. But they are their elite unit, and they are pretty bad dudes for the most part. So, but it looks like they've got special forces teams in with the goal or mission to basically take out Ukraine's leaders. All right. So I think once that happens, everything will fold. They probably will be successful just because these guys are pretty bad. It'd be like the SEAL team going in and not being successful. You can't see that happening, right? So. A couple things I do want to point out real fast. This is the location. If you get into, let me back up a little bit. This is an overhead look of the Ukraine. You got the Black Sea. You guys are familiar with that because we point that out. We just looked at the naval stuff there. But this is where the fire took place at the nuclear facility. Something that is not good. But I do find it interesting that they would actually strike that spot. I can see taking out power, but the fact that it is nuclear is kind of concerning, right? But these other items on this list, and it's not complete, these that look like a little flower, these are bioweapon labs that are there by the United States, all right? And so you hear us talk about that, but then when you put it in perspective and on the map and you really look at it, it kind of staggering to think about the U.S. actually having bioweapon research laboratories in the Ukraine. Kind of concerning, really, right? But two of these spots, Kiev, at least I know that one, and then there was one other that actually have 3 facilities in those locations. So, yeah, it's pretty stacked. And this isn't a complete list of the ones that are in there, but these are the ones that I know were actually hit by Russia and their targeting. So, just a data point, but that is not good. I just don't see why we would be doing business like that. Again, it goes right back to agency stuff, right? Because that only makes sense. And then, of course, if you get back over to our uranium one map, you kind of know exactly. You can see, Ukraine's right dead in the mix of all of this uranium one piece that went down. And so that's basically everybody that was involved in it that was tied to getting paid somehow, right? Pay to play. And of course, that goes right back into the Clinton Foundation. So anyway, just something to pay attention to. It's a data point, but this is definitely something that we should all be concerned about, and the media is not talking about, okay? All right, over here to flight radar. These are the watch lists that's going on currently right now. We know the Forte 10, we've already looked at that. I'm gonna button that up. We're gonna back up and just take a look at the volcanic activity, because we haven't talked about that in a little while, and it is Friday. We want to get into it. We still got a lot to cover. So looks like we've got 6 volcanoes from Central and South America, all popping and firing, and then we got this one over in Japan. Kind of a normal look, what we typically see. So we've got about 7 active ash spewing volcanoes that are creating ash alerts for aviation. Okay. Now get over to cyber attacks, just so you guys can see. This is going to be your Black Sea. This is Ukraine right here. I'm mousing over. This is Russia. It looks like we got some spikes in the Russia area. It looks to be kind of a normal kind of flow day in terms of the attack stuff. I don't see anything that's like really out of control at the moment. I do certainly expect that to change, because this is going to be kind of a dual faceted war, and as it goes hot and goes into number 3, then the cyber piece will be definitely a big part of that. So, all right, over here to the UK transports, just to show you, these are troop movers, where these guys are headed out of. You can see one of them's actually coming across now. Landed in Bangor, Maine a little while ago. Looks like it's headed probably down to Vegas, if I had to guess. They do a lot of red flag stuff down there, but that pretty consistent. And then over here into Europe, you can see they're starting to, this is the Black Sea, Ukraine up here. They're starting to put some more assets down south of Turkey, which I think is interesting. We've been seeing them going into Cyprus. That's that same area and region. So it looks like we're setting up shop down there from a southern front. I guess if we end up getting into the mix of this with the NATO-Russia piece, then this may be, they may be flying sorties out of the south side and not just be limited into the European side, okay? All right, and these are going to be our camber flights. These are troop movers. So this one's coming out of Sofia, which is Bulgaria, and then Colorado Springs. It looks like that one's headed. That could be actually going into Fort Worth. And that'll just transition somewhere, more than likely, probably into Asia, if I had to guess. But that's the only 2 that are up today. This one over here is in Europe. You can see it looks to be headed southbound. And again, that kind of aligns, probably headed over here into the Cyprus area or somewhere here in the Middle East, if I had to guess. All right, Omni Air, again, these, now we know these are consistent with, this, all they do is pretty much move our troops. So, but I will tell you again, you can see this one's Seattle to Japan. It's going into Tokyo. And then this one here looks to be coming down, which is very interesting, headed into Valley, which is strange. Now, I say troop movers, unless we are putting troops down here into, that doesn't look right to me, Central America, and then up to the border. That would indicate that is not troops. I'm sorry, but I don't think that is troops. And that just popped on. So normally, 99% of the time, they're troops, but it'd be the first time I've ever seen them move troops down into Central America in this general area. It could be, maybe wrong, but that definitely looks suspect to me. That looks like a fill-in for some of the flights. Now, we've been watching Swift Airs. I've kind of gone off of that a little bit. But Harlingen, that's a border town, and that is a Central America flight. So, okay, let's get over here to Biggs Army Airfield, because this is really the hub of what is going on. We've got some arrivals coming in from Baltimore and Harrisburg. Again, same thing we had yesterday. And then looks like this flight is headed out to Indianapolis. And then this one here rolling over to Houston again. And that's a United Airline flight. So Don't know if that's rehoming poppies or if we're moving some troops around. Not really sure. This one here headed to Anchorage, 100%. That's going to be troop movers, 777, and that's going to be headed over to the Asia Pacific realm. Okay. All right, over here to the board in Kiev, we can just kind of show you it is still blank. No arrivals, no departures. Exactly what you would expect to see. All right, and then we get into this side of it, just kind of show you the air traffic from a high level view. This is actually, big box here is Ukraine. Looks like they got a little bit of weather moving in. And as we back up, you can see the traffic flows. It's just one giant hole. But it's interesting is that this is it's kind of weird. They seem to be steering, you can see it. I mean, they're really steering clear of this general area right now. That may be because Soviets have some S-300 or S-400 weapon systems in here, maybe. In Belarus, they're not flying over Belarus either. So, okay. Now let's talk a little bit about Guantanamo Bay, because it just wouldn't be a complete sit rep if we didn't talk about the spa. Okay, so now this is, we've got our Sun Country. That's our Legal Eagle Uber coming in from Jacksonville. This is Amerijet, which I don't see too often come out of Norfolk. That could be a fill-in. They do from time to time, especially with all the things going on right now, have to kind of plug and play with assets. So it's not unlikely or uncommon that we would see a different plane coming in, you know, that it's still the same equipment, 767-300, just a different provider. And it's one of the providers that we commonly see, all right? And then this looks to be our new bird, which is going to be that MN Aircraft LLC. That is basically our Tuesday, Friday bird that comes in and out. I think that is probably contractor support. And then on departures, it's the same thing. It's just turn around and leave in. So it looks pretty good. Now let's get over to the board real fast to just show you what we've got on the court calendar for Guantanamo Bay. You can see these are canceled up until today. But starting Monday, it looks like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is rolling back into the hizzy and going through his hearing for the whole month. And so we'll see if that continues on. If that does, then we would typically see some type of an uptick. We should probably see an aircraft or two coming in from Miami or from the Brown Zone into that area, just because they'll be doing that for the hearing stuff, okay? Remember, this is 9/11 stuff, which is crazy to think it's still going on, okay? Okay, now let's look at the NASA flights just briefly. Remember, this is the NASA Airborne Science Program. So I don't know what these critters are up to. I will just tell you they are very busy as of late, and they're doing a lot of work out over the water. This one that we're tracking right here is actually, let me see if that's the U-2 or not. I'm not positive. One of these is a U-2, and the other is a G4. So, and you can see them coming in. And then one of them was actually a P3. I think the P3 was out here. Let's see if it's still there. And that's going to be your Navy P3. So typically the P3 stuff's doing water type of things, right? Those are sub hunters typically. And the fact that you had the U-2 that's up here doing some routes, kind of flying around, and then this other G4, which is a Gulfstream, flying around, I think is kind of an interesting. These are data points again. This one here, that's a search pattern that this one is doing. That is a little Twin Otter DH6, but when they start doing that back and forth like that, that's typically a search pattern. And then that, I don't know what they're doing there, but some crazy flying. Now it is definitely not those real sharp angles. It's a little more rounded, but the apps will do that sometimes and make it look that way. So, and then it looked like we had something going on up here right along the border. I don't know what that is either. But these planes have the ability to do recon stuff. They have the ability to mess with the weather, you know, where they drop stuff into the atmosphere. There's a lot of different things they can do, and a lot of it is unknown, okay? All right, so that'll cover NASA. Now, Starlink, looks like the next object to come falling out of the sky is going to be one of these Starlink 1406, and it is due to come back into the atmosphere on the 7th. Around 1:52, it'll start its descent and its burn up, or decay, as they say. All right, last one up. This is actually going to be Department of Homeland Security Secretary was up here in Detroit for something, and it looks like he flew back about 19 hours ago. Sorry, actually, DC to Detroit. So he flew up there about 19 hours ago. So just a heads up if you're in that area, okay? All right. Well, listen, that is going to cover us today for our sit rep. Again, we'll continue to watch this over the weekend. If anything happens really crazy, or I see something that from the intel community that needs to be brought to our attention quickly, I will certainly do a quick breaking news live show. So other than that, we survived another week. Let's just stay frosty out there, keep that powder dry, and I will see you in our next sit rep on Monday. Those in the chat members, don't forget today we do our Q&A right after this. And so just hit that link and we'll be picking that up directly after this. So that's it. You guys stay safe out there. God bless. Monkey out.
Check out the latest gear and products at monkeywerxus.com.